Well, hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm Old Who.
The gentleman has fits of distracted behaviour and must for his own safety be confined.
And I'm Victoria Wheeler. I'm New Who.
It's a laboratory. Oh no, it could be a nursery. But the kids would have to be pretty advanced. And creepy.
Sadly, the final season of the original show, and to a favorite of one of mine, Ghostlight, by the amazing Mark Platt. And we're going to jump right into the synopsis, and then we'll get back and talk about this unique story. Ghostlight, Serial 7Q. Writer, Mark Platt. Director, Alan Waring. Script editor, Andrew Cartmel. Producer, John Nathan Turner. Originally aired October 4th, 1989 through October 18th, 1989. The Doctor and Ace arrive in Perrivale, 1883, in Gabriel Chase, an evil house that Ace burned down in 1983. The house is built upon an ancient spaceship, and its inhabitants are under the domination of Josiah Samuel Smith, who turns out to be a reptilian alien from the ship who has evolved into human Smith. Smith is holding a prisoner, the explorer Redvers Fenn Cooper, who went mad when he first beheld the ship's true owner and plots to have him kill Queen Victoria to restore the British Empire to its former glory. Smith's plans are thwarted by the Control, another alien who evolves into a woman, Nimrod, his Neanderthal servant, and Ace, who causes a release of a powerful alien named Litte. Light once catalogued all of Earth's species, but when he learns that his catalog has been made obsolete by evolution, he wants to destroy mankind. He disintegrates when the Doctor shows him that no one can stop evolution. Fenn Cooper, Control, and Nimrod leave in the ship. Another wonderful synopsis from the program guide by Jean-Marc Lofficier. All right, that was a lovely synopsis from the episode guide by Paul-Marc Lofficier. Vic, do you want to start this week?
Sure. This is one that our About Time said is like Marmite. You either like it or you hate it. Mm-hmm. Which was apparently Marmite's ad campaign for a while.
I've never had Marmite, but it sounds dodgy to me.
I got a jar upstairs. Eva wanted to try it. So this is, I think, classic Andrew Cartmel. This is the natural successor to Happiness Patrol. This is the natural successor to the social political commentary.
Yeah.
And so it's very deep, and it is rooted in all sorts of weirdness.
So much stuff.
And but also like literary commentary and references, deep references all over the pantheon of literary of literature, all the pantheon of literature. And because it's Alice in Wonderland. Gwendolyn actually mishears Ace and calls her Alice. And
calls her Eliza at some point too, when she needs to get dressed up.
Right. No, there's absolute Pygmalion references. There's all sorts of Victoriana, right? There's Reading Jail references, which is Oscar Wilde. It's fantastic, and you can't not pay attention to this one. How about this? If you're not paying attention, you're not going to enjoy it.
No,
right?
It is one that takes a fixated attendance span. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It is one, though, when I first saw it, I immediately watched it again because there are elements I didn't get because I probably got this. You and me probably just knew each other when I first saw this.
Right.
Okay.
No, I remember you being excited about
getting new Who. A
new doctor.
Yeah. And I might have been partaking in some herbal recreation and watching this, which doesn't do it any harm. But I immediately went back and watched it a second time because it was so different. And that's one part of the Cartmel era that I love so much, is that he brought in people who thought outside the box. And this one is way outside the box. It's outside the box, down the corner, and in the back. In some ways.
It is and it isn't, right? Because we've talked about the Hinchcliffe Holmes era ad nauseum and the Gothic story, right? There is, there are women in peril, and this time it's Ace.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the classic sort of element, a spooky
the British
house.
haunted house story, and
Right.
that mixture of horror with science fiction.
Right, but I mean, all of our Gothic story elements are here.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the house is one that Ace burned down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, and you see this.
So
this.
twists.
What I like about there's a part of the second of Cartmel making Seven the Great Manipulator, Times Champion, which will be used in the new adventure novels, that he is Times Champion. That is what this incarnation's job. And this was actually, and elements of this are used in Longbarrow, which is the origin. Mark Platt writing the origin of the Doctor, which I've never read.
And that's the looms.
Yeah, the looms. They're loomed. They're built. Right. They're created, not born.
So this is the first guy, to clarify, the writer of this was the first writer to be plucked from fandom. Essentially, he started writing fanfic.
Mm-hmm. This has a feeling of fanfic. Fanfic can be very complicated, complex. And that's part of the why some of the allure for some people is. I have made friends with 2 Legion of Superhero fanfic people. And they're a great conversation. I tell them, it's like, I don't get I personally that's not something I wanted to do, but I like to hear their plots, and they share them, and it's a very nice conversation. But this is, like him and Ben Aronovich were fans. I mean, Mark Platt more so.
Right.
Way more so.
Right. Because Aronovich liked the show, but wrote everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Platt,
he wrote a lot of different stuff, and whereas Platt was a fanboy.
Yeah, this is the only TV show he wrote, but he did novelization for Battlefield in this. He wrote he wrote one of the first New Adventures and the last one, not counting the 8th Doctor one.
Right.
So, and then he did a novelization for Downtime, which was a direct-to-video thing. So.
But what's fascinating about this, who's the arbiter of all things who made life a little miserable for people?
Ian Levine? Ugh.
Yes. It's fanboy, but not Ian Levine.
It's fanboy that I want to add to the show, not I want to gatekeep.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But so it's the excited, let's do this, and
why don't we?
Right? It's the yes and.
Yeah, and what else can we bring to the thing? Good God, I've just scrolled up a little bit and realized how much Big Finish he's done. Jesus. Right. And I like it. Well, he wrote one that you love.
Luke Guru.
I like most everything he does.
Which is a classic
also did the Silver
Gothic.
Turk.
Yeah. Right. Bringing in Mary Shelley. I'm telling you, this guy is Gothic all the way, and it's fun. He makes it fun. He makes it interesting. But at the same time, and I do, maybe I wasn't there. We were dealing with our own conservative crap in the U.S. then, and we didn't have the internet, but we were certainly aware of Thatcher's England.
Oh yeah,
right?
It went hand in hand with Reagan. It's kind of
yes, absolutely. They loved each other, right? But like she pre-recorded his eulogy because she knew she was failing and she wanted to give the eulogy at his funeral. But like we certainly knew about. I have a friend who had a punk band named Margaret Thatcher and the Supply Side, right? Like it's a great name. It's a great name. And so they were suffering over there, and art, and avant-garde art in particular, and this runs very much like an avant-garde play. The sort of what appear to be non sequiturs that actually, if you pause to think about it, but you don't have time to pause to think about it, they're all in there. But this is there are direct attacks on Thatcher. Like one of her things was a return to Victorian values. And when the guy hands him, when Josiah offers the doctor money, the doctor, scoffs at it and then says, "Wait a second, how much?" Just out of curiosity, yeah. Right? And the guy tells him, and he said, "Well, talk about Victorian value." Right? Like, and so they're deep cuts all the way through. There's all these references, and you got to pay attention.
Oh yeah. I like. There's certain things, I keep going on about the mixture of horror and science fiction in British science fiction, that the perceived, what is advanced alien science is perceived as magic.
Right.
The haunted house. This was a haunted house. Stuff was going on, because the stone spaceship, and I love stuff like that, one of my favorite things is the Neanderthal butler.
Nimrod.
Oh my God, he's it is a flawless performance, because he puts on the makeup and he just gruffs his voice up enough and hunches his shoulders, and then he's just he's a butler.
Yeah. No, and he has this very proper, right, and like all RP, but make it Neanderthal.
It's like
right?
light learning RP, light teaching yourself RP.
Yeah, and yet he's got this incredible loyalty that the doctor's able to switch on a dime, right? Because of course he can. But no, he's wonderful. They did About Time in the incredibly nitpicky way that they do, which I love and bugs me sometimes. But they said that we thought that Neanderthals were all hunched over until we realized that the skeleton, the first, most complete skeleton they'd ever found, was actually like a 109-year-old man. So of course he was hunched over, and Neanderthals actually walked upright. But anyway, but that was after this. So this is the way that Neanderthals were portrayed. And look, I mean, first of all, Ace is magnificent.
They're at their, this is the
it's the last film.
It's the last film. So they knew at some point during this that this was it.
Yeah.
They were told during.
And there's incredible physical acting in this. He throws her around, as you would need to do with Ace, right? You're going to have to put a hand on her shoulder, and pull her behind you. And he does it multiple times. And they're just, I mean, that's his greatest gift, is his physical acting and his comedy. But the two of them, it's balletic. They're so good together. They're so good at that aspect of it. The rest of the cast is great. The woman who plays Mrs. Pritchard has been in every British sitcom. And the guy from Black Orchid is back this time.
I love him as Redbeard's Freddy Cooper, the great explorer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, ripped off from James Fenimore Cooper, right? Like the author of Last of the
And
Mohicans.
there's a slight inference that Conan Doyle got his Lost World stories from this guy's adventures, this character's adventures.
Yes.
I like that.
All of these little references are little drips of Victoriana all over the place. But so the actors are all great. The guy who plays Light is ethereal and
he's so
wonderful.
funny. In a way, I like the choices that he's this confused, pissed off professor that's like some Don at a college. Like, you all are so. What are you? You know. That no, that and also that there's this thing that what I like about science, because there is a commentary on that knowledge never ends. You cannot know it all. That it is an impossibility to know it all.
Well, certainly the idea of change.
Yeah, that change is constant,
right?
Which is what I tell.
Change is constant.
I say that to my employees at work. It's like, why are we changing this? Because the only constant in the universe is change. Right,
and it is this is a commentary on resistance to change, on hearkening back to the old ways, on wanting things to be fixed and not changing, which is certainly, again, another attack on Thatcher and her Victorian values. And so it's anti-science, right? It's the same thing we're going through now, right? It's anti-science, it's anti-knowledge, it's anti-growth, it's right? Anything new or different is bad, and including science, right? Including the things that science can teach us about the world around us, all bad. And so it's a superb commentary, and because I'm an overeducated twerp, this one works better for me than Happiness Patrol.
I get that, because this is, I get why Happiness Patrol works for me, because it is social commentary as pure farce. Yeah,
farce.
As pure farce.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that. I think one of the great social comedians and social commentary when it comes to film is Mel Brooks, especially early Mel Brooks. Because, Blazing Saddles is a romp, but it is social commentary from on racism.
And intended.
Yes, on racism. It's a black guy and a Jewish guy saying that all white people are Caucasians are just Johnsons. Simply. Yeah. But I get this one is social commentary against some deeper things. I think, people go, it's hard to understand. That's a complaint a lot of fandom. And I get if you're not paying.
Well, this is about ideas, right?
And I think people are like, and also in their storytelling, but what do they mean? And I think he's throwing a lot out there for you to think about. He's not giving you the answer. He's saying that this is what people do when we move forward. Think about it. That's all. He wants it. And that's good social commentary writing, is where it doesn't give you the answer.
And it's not just Victoriana, right? Like, it's not just. There's a whole kitchen sink in here. There's Douglas Adams references, right?
There's social commentaries. There's scientific commentaries. And it's all wrapped up in. And their performances, like the cop that keeps eating once they pull him out of the drawer. And the minister turns into a monkey. Yeah. You're all.
And that doesn't make sense, right? At some level you think, oh, this is devolution, right? It's the opposite of evolution. This guy's so regressive in his ideas and his thinking that he's going to actually go backwards, and that's not how devolution would work.
Well, I think it's also. This is that he is the anti-Darwin. The anti-Darwinism when the story is taking place was huge. And what else to do to someone who complains about evolution but to de-evolve him in some manner as his punishment for his ignorance? At least that's what
I mean, I think the specific commentary is look how much like apes we are.
Yeah, okay, that's even a better take on it.
That we are, but again, like About Time gets a little bogged down in the dates of Darwin's publication, right? And would somebody still be making this argument about Darwin at this point?
No, because when is this? 1880s?
1883.
Yeah, it would be dying down some, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
When does Darwinism become more the predominant theory? Let's call it that.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, with the publication, it started conversation. And, like a lot of things, some people read it and went, we've just leapt forward, right? And there were other people who were resistant to it, and it's a scientific, right? I mean, we just made mRNA vaccines, right? We've never successfully made mRNA vaccines. And yet there are people who are resistant to it because they don't understand it, right? Similarly, we have an understanding now of gender as a social construct, and there are people who are fighting against that, right? And so, again, it's change, it's new information, it's new understandings, and there are people who embrace it, and there are people who just dig in against it. And so I couldn't tell you. I'm not sure who could tell you. What these guys at About Time probably could tell you the date of the date that the majority of people believed in Darwinism. They probably could, but the reason it's set in the 1880s is because they wanted it 100 years after Ace burns down the house, or prior to Ace burning down the house. I believe that the first Darwin's first book was published in the 1857 or something, and that he died in 1881, something like that. And so there's so many good references, right? And some of the Doctor Who references are really good ones too, right? Like Fen Cooper picks up a gun and points it, and the Doctor says, "Is that a Chinese fowling piece?" And it's straight out of Talons of Wen Chien. Similarly, the Neanderthal Roman about is straight out of Evil of the Daleks. I love that they're going to kill the crowned Saxburg Gotha. That they're going to kill Queen Victoria because they want to kill the most powerful person on the planet. The Doctor has this great line. It's like, "Let's turn the globe pink." Right? Like he has so many fast little lines that you can barely understand, and it's peak 7.
That's the other thing I like about it, because I think this last season. The last 2 seasons are so good, and this is the one of the 7. This is like probably this and Remembrance are the 2 I've watched the most.
Well, and Curse of Fenric, right?
Curse of Fenric. Yeah, but I mean, literally, I will watch this before I will watch Curse of Fenric sometimes. Because I just enjoy this one so much, and it shows you what they could do in one standing set. You know what I mean? This is, especially because the BBC doing period pieces, they've got all this stuff in storage. It's just moving the pieces around. So.
Yeah, I guess that in the 80s is another thing About Time picks up. In the 80s, they were starting to ship those out and not do them in-house because they were too expensive. And so what they had to do was sell the rights before they filmed in order to guarantee coverage of all
the
of
costs.
So remember, but we saw so many great ones in the 70s, and it just got to be cost prohibitive. So this stuff may be kind of old.
Yeah.
And run down, and it's the last of it. They just weren't doing as much of them. Again, I mean, sometimes reading these About Time series can be like, oh, come on, it's a story, right? Like sometimes they get so pedantic about stuff. And other times they're just...
I think it's sometimes when you write these books that you can't, that you got to put some snarkiness in.
But they have...
I know.
They do their research, and the BBC archives are apparently really rich in all of like the memos and things about the making of stuff. And they said, it's a really trustworthy source. They claim there are claims in the BBC archives that they considered Michael Caine for the role of Josiah.
Yeah,
and they're usually really reliable. And he, at the time, was doing a thing on screen acting for the BBC, like doing a documentary on it. And so maybe he came close to agreeing, right? Could you imagine?
No, it's like they talk about Olivier wanted to be in one, and it was almost in... he would have been the guy that gets thrown into the pond in Dalek's story, the Colin Baker Dalek story, the burnt guy. That was the only part they really had for him. It's like, what, really? You couldn't have given him... I mean, the guy from Keeping Up Appearances, who plays the head mortician.
Right.
I mean, Olivier's a great actor, but that dude is a spot-on perfect comedian. You know what I mean? Because he didn't like doing Doctor Who. He didn't get it. He didn't get it when he did the one with Kylie years later. But he's such a good actor. He understands what's funny in the word.
Right.
Which is, I mean, so did Olivia.
Right. And like all of our greatest actors, our greatest dramatic actors, they all really want to do comedy, right? Like Streep would love to do more comedy.
They don't. People don't think about it.
People don't think about it, and people don't know if that's, really her strength. And I think that's the same way. I mean, we see with The Entertainer, right? That's what Olivier... It was his secret wish.
To do both, and he has to do both in that, which is... You want people... You've never seen a dark comedy, watch The Entertainer. He is amazing. Yeah. It's a great piece. I'd like to see it on stage, which is what it was written for. But it works because it's an amazing. People go, was he really the greatest actor of his generation? It's, yeah. Yeah.
But only with that can you prove it. And Streep has successfully done certain types of comedy. The one she did
about the true story about the woman who couldn't sing but wanted to be a singer for the troops, with her, the guy from Big Bang, and Hugh Grant, and her and Hugh Grant are adored. Hugh Grant is, for me, has got a whole new life because he's gotten to the point where, yes, I'm still a handsome man, but I'm going to start to play dodgy characters. So he's playing a lot of East End gangsters. Yeah. And he did one in The Gentleman, and I recommend this. It's a Guy Ritchie movie. His performance as this soulless private investigator for tabloids is a tour de force. And you're going, why would they pick him? It's like, because the guy realized that he's a good actor, people. He's just handsome. He can do this. I knew he's my friend. I know he could do it. I think they're probably, he probably got hired because they were buddies. Hey, but did you find what you're looking for?
Yeah. Sorry. No, I'm going to keep looking, but keep going.
But also, I want to talk about you were talking about the dialogue on this and how it moves, and the pacing got me this time because there's a lot going on. The creepy stuff with Ace and the daughter. What I like in this is we're also seeing Ace with the bomber jacket off, and she's wearing more grown-up clothes. That's the, more, I'm going to dress, she's still wearing slacks, but she's not wearing a t-shirt. You know what I mean?
Well, we saw that in Battle.
We're seeing, and this is part of that progression to where Ace is growing up a little bit, and which would have been if they had gotten one more season, we would have seen her leave. You know, they were showing you that Dorothy, Ace, is growing up. And I think in the new adventure, she becomes a warrior, you know. It's kind of like in the book, she's a leather cat suit, ray gun kind of person. That's what they're going. I don't think that's where Cartmel was going to take her. I think he was going to take her someplace softer.
No.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily softer, but real.
Less comic
right?
booky. Yeah, but they very 2000 AD her in the books, from what I take. I haven't read them, but it's very 2000 AD.
And he's not necessarily against that, but what I think, having talked to him, right? That's the great thing about cons, is that we got to be in a room with him and discover not just the genius, right, which we had inklings about, but the soul and heart of that guy, right? It's so lovely. But his thing about Ace is that he was aware of what it meant to put a character like that on television. He thought it was important, and she wasn't static. She was there to be human and change and evolve. And her relationship with the Doctor was going to do all those things. No, he's far too intelligent a human being to have just stuck her in that bomber jacket and never let her leave. He knew that she was going to grow.
And that's what makes her kind of the first modern companion. Because even greats before, Sarah Jane, does she really grow? No, she starts out fully actualized, go-getter, smart, part of the action, equal to the Doctor in many ways. So does Liz. So does Barbara. I mean, I think there's growth in that first year and a half of New Who, because there's a huge change in Hartnell's performance. But for the most part, if you got a good companion, they started a good companion.
Right. But it got
Oh,
worse,
yeah.
Right?
No, that's what I'm trying to say. It happened.
Perry and Mel as the previous companions are what Cartmel would have walked in dealing with, right? And so, they're stick figures, you know, and nothing. I mean, particularly, we talk about this all the time, that Bonnie was such a pro, hit her mark, hit the note, right? Did everything she asked for with gusto, right? And that's amazing. But boy, they didn't ask much.
No, and that's kind of the thing that, you know, that. Sorry.
But Ace is the opposite, right? Ace is the antidote. Ace is the response to, you know, these really flat, antiquated ideas of what women are. And this is a classic example. She's sent upstairs to dress for dinner. And she undoes the prim little girl in the story. Right? They come out wearing black tie and tails. And it's a gender, it's an attack, it's an assault on gender, which Ace would absolutely do, which is why women responded so well to Ace.
And why even today, when people like new fans go back and discover old Who, you know, you have the people that are drawn to Ace. It's why we get Charlie. It's why we get Evelyn in a way, and it's why we get Rose.
Oh, sure.
You know,
Absolutely.
We're not get fan. They realize. I mean, and Davies is a huge fan of Old Who and Big Finish and read all the novels. So he was like, well, I'm going to do what they're doing but I'm going to make it more so. It's going to be about the companion, a lot more so. The companion will be center of the story more often.
Well, right. I mean, you were there and at the time, and you were also a Buffy fan, and let's do Doctor Who, but make it Buffy.
Yeah, it's the Buffy. It's the. I mean, I'm not going to use it. It's that model and almost all adventure show is based on that model right now. A great deal of it.
Well, and now Davies is being brought back and saying Doctor Who, but make it Marvel.
Yeah.
You know, WandaVision this.
Yeah.
Right. Loki this, and I'm like, that's what's the greatest thing in the world is that everybody's going to trust him.
Yeah, and it's,
right? Like, there will be detractors.
Yeah, and that's just going to be it is. There's going to be there's going to be a lurch, and people are going to. It came up in a couple feeds on Twitter this week, and I put something out there. Someone said blob fandom's this, and I said it's all fandom. It's all fandom. It is very much, and I said I started seeing on my comic feed some very aggressive opinion, and it's like, yes, everybody has a right to opinion, but when it becomes aggressive and abusive, it stops being opinion. But you see it is because everybody's going to go, but it's not like what I wanted, or it's not what I liked, it's not what I define the show as. Well, the show changes what it is every 3 to 5 years. So as in Ghostlight changes, the constant is change. It's going to evolve. And I would like to, and I think stories like this are the great thing about Doctor Who is stories like Ghostlight work in it. You can do Battlefield 1 story, which is knights in armor battling in modern day Earth with the brig, and then the next do this pseudoscience fiction horror gothic story, and then you do survival. Which is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, which is why it has attracted some of the greatest writers in television, but also some of the greatest writers of our age, right? Like Neil Gaiman had a list of 3 things that he wanted to do when he was a kid.
And one was write Doctor Who.
Right? And one was write an episode of Doctor Who, and he got to do it.
He wrote one of my favorites.
And
I really do,
He wrote one that's a lot like this one.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's got the rapid fire speak, what is this setting? I don't understand. And so many references and so much absurdity and so much avant-garde. It probably is the most like Ghostlight of anything in New Who. And then he comes back with Cybermen and castles and men in armor.
Set in Space Disney World.
Set in Disney World. Yeah, it's the best.
That is the most. That's another
like
one that's very 2000 AD.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's there are, and that's what I like about this one. It is all these things put together. I did not get a chance on the Blu-ray. They have a they don't call it a different edit. It's a different print, and there's scenes in it that are not in the final. And they don't teach. It's not like in some of the other sets where it's a fully finished piece. Like there are 3 versions of the demons in that box set. There's the original, there's the VHS edit, and then there's the omnibus edit. They do stuff like that. And this one, it's a work print. That's what it was. I couldn't remember the work print. Another reason these Blu-ray sets are so great is because as Jeff says, they're documenting everything. The next one is season 22, and I can't wait. Good and bad. But I love this one. It's one of my favorites. I do not find it that hard to understand. I think some people do. I think it is. It can be distracting. I understand why people get lost in the different things that they're trying to do.
Well, they're trying to do a lot.
I think also if this was shot in modern time, there'd be a little better sound editing. But
the music is
who is the music in this one?
It is let me see. Is it Dudley Simpson?
I can't remember. What's that guy?
Also good stuff. Let's see. Honest to goodness. almost a decade since he dumped Dudley Simpson, Nathan Turner started to think that maybe an orchestral score might be doing again. So that's it on that. It's fantastic. The music is just it's subtle, so you don't realize that it's not really what we're used to with the heavy synth stuff that they've been doing.
God, so much synth.
It crescendos every once in a while, and your ear gets pulled to it, and it might take a second watch to understand that the emotional content is being really aided by the music in this one. It's really good. I just think the other thing that about time reference, which should have occurred to me but doesn't, it's the sitting around a table and don't eat the soup. This is Rocky Horror.
Oh yeah, it is. Because isn't it the cop? Isn't the soup the cop? It's one. It's the cop.
Yeah. And so, but it's two strangers happen upon a haunted house, and the alien, inhabitants, and weirdness, and gender bending, and cannibalism, and like it's all there. It's all there. And a full decade after Rocky Horror was made into a movie, right? A full 15 years since it was a West End cult hit. So but you could spend hours doing the deep dive.
Yeah. I wonder if they have those books called the Black Archives, and Mark Barber from Strangers in Space has written one, and others. It is basically it's like a about time, thinner, but about a single story.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of
this would be a good one to do. Yeah, this would be a good one.
I found the music, the person who did the music. It was not Mr. Simpson. It was Mark Ayers, who does all the restorations of the music, and he is. We have to thank him for all the audios. The original. He's the one who went and cleaned him up. And he's a good composer because the music, and he did most of these. He did Greatest Show in the Galaxy, Dragonfire, Paradise Towers. He did a lot of the end the last couple of years, and he is also one of the leading people in the restoration team who was cleaning up not only the audio track, the missing shows that were on the reel-to-reels, but also fixing sound when they remastered all the Doctor for the restoration team when they first put him out in VHS and then DVD. He's great. I would love to go to a convention where he's talking, because if you've not seen him interviewed, he's like in every box set. He's a very smart man. He was playing this because. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, that's our talk on Ghostlight. That's a little short episode. We've just got a long discussion about everything other than Ghostlight. But we will be back next time with me and Victoria with. We're going to take a pause from the original Big Finish Charlie episodes, and we're going to insert, before we do Neverland and Zagreus and then go into the Divergence, the lovely box set that came out a few months ago, The Further Adventures of Charlie Pollard, and its first story, The Mummy Speaks, which I've listened to and enjoyed a great deal, and I think Vic is going to find a lot of fun with it. It is a lot of fun. So, and then me and Jeff will be back with discussion about producers, hopefully next week. And the winner of the survey was Philip Hinchcliffe. I was kind of rooting for John Nathan Turner. We had to go to a tiebreaker round, and Philip won. But we will, and the day we record this, which is May 1st, yesterday, I think, was John Nathan Turner's birthday.
Did you see that Janet Fielding posted a throwback picture of her at some party?
Oh, it was a rap party.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I shared it on the where she's dressed as John Nathan Turner.
Dressed as
Chris
John
Chibnall's
Nathan Turner,
dressed as a Kerblam man. Yeah. So, we're waiting on more news. I have a feeling that there are more former companions who are going to appear in this. Yeah, I
You
think he just teased that for the trailer. Maybe look here while I do this. Because he keeps a lot of secrets.
Yeah. Pay no attention
Yeah.
to what the right hand is doing.
He's been one of my favorite things about his era is the surprise. The what
well,
the
now I called it and said that they were going to release during the men's final on Sunday at Wimbledon. That's July.
That's way out there.
It's really way out there. So,
maybe they'll do it during like the Champions League final, which is coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a different. That's a different.
Well, it's good. It looks like it could be an all English Champions League.
But I think it's a different.
You want something that's got
fan base.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, but that is kind of like the Super Bowl when everyone's watching. So okay. I don't know, but so my prediction on Wimbledon was maybe a little far out.
Well, folks, hoping we'll have a trailer or something to talk about. Do follow us on our feeds on Twitter at Gallifrey's MW Pod or at Runcible Report. Hey, and we look forward to seeing you all somewhere in time or space.